is just progressively getting worse, and you see people adapting to it, and you're just there waving like, hey, there's more to life than this.
Hey everybody, Simo D here of Foreign Radio. In this episode, I speak with Marc-André, one half of the creator couple behind More Life Diaries, a candid exploration of life abroad. Through a YouTube channel, podcast, and blog, they explore the ins and outs of their life in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. They felt disenchanted with the conventional life path. I think many of us can relate to this. It was certainly my story as well. So they decided to look abroad for something more. They wanted more time with their kids. They wanted more time for the things that they love. They wanted to be able to have a cheaper cost of living and explore that feeling of travel, you know, that feeling you get when you go to a new place. They wanted to embody that and live that. Their popular YouTube channel explores everything you need to know about life in Mexico, from cost of living to daily life, the challenges of living abroad, as well as debunking some of the myths surrounding Mexico. Marc provides a lot of valuable information in this episode. So enough with the preamble. Let's get into it. Foreign Radio, episode 4. Welcome to Foreign Radio, Marc. Round 2 here. I think I just recently saw, do you guys have a hurricane coming in on the Pacific side?
From what I saw, it was coming in, but it wasn't gonna touch down here in PV.
Oh, okay.
It's really rare to actually get hurricanes here. We're kind of at the end of the bay, on the Pacific side, but in Banderas Bay. And it's super rare that hurricanes come and touch directly here. So thankfully, the last big one touched maybe like 20 minutes down south. Did quite a bit of damage, so it still sucks. But there was talks of one, a couple of days ago, I think. And nothing so far, not even rain here. So
the rain's always good, but that's good that there's no hurricane. Yeah, Belize is very similar too. We don't get a ton of actual like real hurricanes coming in. You know, there's been a few since we've moved here that kind of like have come, but then nothing too big, thankfully, and they always seem to head a little bit further north of where we're at. So, but yeah, how have you guys kind of learned to cope with that? Because obviously coming from Toronto, same with us, like that's nothing that we ever had to consider, you know, ice storms and blizzards and stuff in the winter, sure, but never like hurricanes, tropical storms. How are you guys adjusting to that?
Pretty well. Like during the summertime, it's rainy season here, so it rains really hard for a short amount of periods, so it is really intense. But we kind of like it because it's so hot out and so humid that period when it actually rains is the time that it cools off until it kicks back up again. So we actually enjoy it. Like, it can be scary at times because the thunder, the lightning is quite loud. It's really, really intense. But we kind of just look at how, you know, Mexicans are looking at things, and if they're not worried, we're not worried because they've lived through this many times over. Probably the same thing with the hurricane that hit, I think it was last year or so. Everyone was still hanging out. It was raining out. People are still outside drinking beer, enjoying their time, playing music. And then the electricity got shut off. They're all like still just chilling. So it is really reassuring to see that everyone's just been through it. It's not a big deal. And at the end of the day, like, you can prepare as much as you can, but realistically, like, stay strapped and be careful. And that's all we do. So yeah, we've lived through some pretty gnarly storms back in Toronto or Ontario with snow and all that. That seems a lot scarier to me for some reason than like a, you know, hard tropical downpour.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because with when you lose power in the winter, right? You're at the risk of freezing to death, essentially, or like, you know, pipes freezing and causing serious problems. Obviously, nothing like that is, you know, you don't have that concern here. I mean, you can, you know, in a big storm, you can theoretically lose like your roof or your home, but Again, it's pretty. I find that that's pretty rare, actually, and I've also noticed that they're like very isolated systems. Like when they come in and you have lots of time to prepare, they're very well tracked, and they kind of know exactly where they're going to be and when, and the category, that can change. But yeah, it's just been an interesting thing to have to navigate here, and and it's very similar to like the Belizean people and the local expats. They'll have like hurricane parties and stuff.
Same. It was the same thing here. Everyone's on their balcony cheering. We were like flashing our lights at each other. It was a whole thing. But the last hurricane we lived through, the most damage was not caused by the hurricane. A couple days later, we actually got flash floods here, which that's the first time. Well, it was our first hurricane as well, but our first flash flood, and that really messed things up because a lot of streets, a lot of houses got flooded. The rain was really, really bad. Like it rained a hard downpour for a very short amount of time, and already the ground was already soaked up from the hurricane, and that really destroyed a lot of people's properties, people's car, and stuff like that. So it's always something, but you know what? It's part of the experience at the end of the day, and it's kind of exciting to like live through these things. But I find that they're never. I mean, thankfully for us, they've never been as serious as like what people hear back in Canada or the United States. Like everyone's messaging us, "Yo, we heard there was a big hurricane that touched down," and we're like, "Yeah, it was okay. Like it wasn't that bad." But according to them, half the city was wiped out. So
yeah, and I mean, and it's funny, right? Because you just think, "Oh, a hurricane's coming to Belize," right? And my family's like messaging me, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, we're fine. It's 100 kilometers away, right?" It's like, and like as I was saying, like they are very isolated systems. They don't, like, it's it's surprising, like to really sustain a lot of damage, you literally have to have it come right over your house. So
for sure.
I stumbled across you guys just pretty recently, and I always like to kind of go back to the very beginning when I kind of discover someone's work, whether it's writing or videos. And watching your first few episodes, episode 0 and 1 and stuff, it was very interesting to me because we have this like kind of parallel story in life. Like, when you guys were planning your move, we were doing the exact same thing. And I want to touch on your sort of reasons. You guys mentioned like feeling that something was off. Could you just kind of delve into that a little bit more? And like what exactly do you think that is missing from life in Canada, US, Europe, the sort of developed countries?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for going all the way back then and watching the videos. I tried to a couple of times and they make me cringe, but you know what? When we started the channel, we were like, we suck at this, but let's just get our story out. Let's talk about, the process from the beginning stages where it's we're talking about, how we're feeling in the times that we're going through those feelings. So that was really important for us. And back then, we were towards the tail end, I guess, of the pandemic. We moved here in November 2022. So that would have been like I think probably around February or March of that same year. And we were just feeling like something was missing in our life. And a lot of it had to do with us before having kids. So we have two beautiful baby boys, one's 3, one's 7. Before then, we had done some traveling. We had lived in Santiago in Chile in 2015, taught English there, came back to Toronto, moved downtown, had kids, got wrapped up in the corporate world. We both had really good jobs. We were getting really good promotions and those types of things, just moving up the ladder. But it always felt empty of some sort. And we never really wanted to be there or do that. We always wanted, especially having children, still be able to travel and live those experiences that we had lived and pass that on to our children. And the reality of it was that we were stuck in a mortgage and all our money was going towards that, especially living in downtown Toronto with crazy prices. And then the pandemic hit basically, and we were stuck at home. And thankfully, we were with our kids, which we always wanted, and we were close to them. And we were both working from home. But after a couple of years of the pandemic and just being stuck at home, we kind of got like stir crazy, and we definitely knew that we wanted a change. We did not want to live in Toronto anymore, especially since we had gone through, a couple years of lockdowns and reoccurring things like that. And we just wanted to take a chance on us as a family. Like, if we weren't going to be doing it now, we weren't never going to be doing it. And at the beginning of 2022, basically, like, moving abroad wasn't even an idea in our mind. And then until it was. And then we started watching videos. And initially, we wanted to move down south to the States, but because of work visas and those things, it would have been really difficult, and cost of living is still high over there. So we started watching YouTube videos on Mexico. And then that's when, the idea struck, and me and Kathleen literally looked at each other and were like, let's try to make this happen. And once that idea strikes in your mind, like, you cannot look back. You become obsessed with it, and you become obsessed with looking into it and what it takes, even though, like, the idea at first seems so unreal. Like, how could we ever make this happen? We have a mortgage downtown Toronto. We both work corporate jobs. We're going to be called back to the office soon. Like, how can we make this happen? And we just became obsessed with it and kept pushing forward and kept planning and started selling some of our things. And yeah, basically here we are, like, a couple years later, and it's the best decision that we've ever made in our lives. And we see it in our kids and we see it in ourselves. Like, the level of happiness is unmatched. And I guess the biggest difference between our life here and our life in Toronto, well, everything is completely different, right? We can get more into that as well, but everything is completely different. But I think just our family and just our level of happiness and the experiences that we've lived in the last couple of years is unmatched. And it's something that when I think about now, and I just thought about this earlier today, I always think, like, what would I be doing in our Toronto life if we still lived out there? Like, that's a reoccurring thought to me. And I was like, well, over the weekend, we would have maybe gone to a park a couple times and see family in Newmarket. And that was really cool. Like, we were happy doing that. But in comparison to our weekend that we just passed, we went to Yalapa in Jalisco, which is an hour south, and it's a place on the coast you can only get to by boat. It's like a tropical paradise, water crystal clear, beautiful. We had amazing food. The kids spent a day swimming in the ocean water, and it's just like, some people will never get to see that in their lifetime. And it's, an hour away from us. We can go there anytime we want. It's just, like, so unreal to think about. Whereas back in Toronto, we would have spent the weekend, going to a park, and that's it.
Yeah.
So some people are really happy with doing that as well. And I'm really happy. That's ultimately the goal, is to live a happy, healthy life. But we're people that want change. We're people that want different experiences. That's where our happiness lies. And doing these types of things and seeing new things and continuously learning about ourselves is something that we want in our life. And yeah, that's our life in a nutshell here versus, what we would be doing in Toronto. And it's just still feels surreal after 2.5 years.
Yeah, no doubt. There's a meme here that essentially it says, I live where you vacation.
Yep.
And I first, when I saw it, it was like, it's on t-shirts and stuff. I was like, that's kind of like a little kitschy and maybe a little annoying. But I actually have come to, like, enjoy it, and it's true, right? Like, my wife and I, we don't have a pool at our place, but we go to a local place and we use the pool, and we call them kind of like mini vacations. Like there's other people there that are on vacation, that they've saved up their entire, year, and they have their week or two, and they come here, and then that's what they do. But it's like, for us, this is like it's our everyday, and we come and we can just sit by the beach and just enjoy like what we would have, saved up and waited a year for, right? But we can do it essentially whenever we want. And just having that access to I mean, you're on the coast as well. I mean, we're on the Caribbean, you're on the Pacific, but having that access to water is just something that I don't think I could ever now go back to not having. Like, it's because in Canada, it's very, you gotta either be on the coast. So when you're in Ontario or something like that, it's not really an option. And then, you can go and hang out in Lake Ontario, or you can go to Muskoka's. But the thing is that all that is essentially bought up by the wealthy, and riparian rights are like a real thing in Canada. So everybody owns the beach, everybody owns the water, and you can't really access it. And I know, and it'd be interesting to know about what the kind of policies around kind of water access for locals in Mexico is, because here all beaches, all rivers, everything, it's all considered Queensland. It's all open. You cannot own the beach. You cannot cut the beach off from local people. It's actually a big debate here, because a lot of foreigners come here and they're kind of told that they can buy beachfront, and then they think, because they're used to North America where you can own a piece of the water, and you cannot do that here. And then they'll come and obstruct the beach and put barriers, and then and they're putting jetties out into the water to like capture sand to build up their beach, and then it's fucking everybody else down the line because it's sucking their beach away, and it's been this big thing. But so in Mexico, actually, I'll just finish that thought. So yeah, being able to access that beach and have that is just like something that, it's so valuable. And I don't think I would ever want to give that up again and go back.
It's funny you bring that up, because there was a big thing that happened here in San Pancho, which is maybe an hour north of us on the coast. And San Pancho is a really popular beach town. A lot of people go surf there. There's like great surfing. And basically a foreigner came and bought a property on the beach. And Semana Santa here, which is like our spring break, it's 2 weeks of vacation. A lot of Mexican nationals go and they camp out on the beach, which you're not allowed to, but it is what it is. It's like a tradition. And they go surfing and stuff. And this foreigner like lost her shit, started yelling at everyone. And it's been tradition for a long time here to do that. And again, here, just to answer your question, the beaches are public, so they can't be bought out. So she was like, this is my part of the beach, this and that. And basically they kind of told her off. And then the next weekend they had a big festival there to kind of combat that. So they had like a banda, they had a taqueria come, banda music. They had like the whole neighborhood came and enjoyed free food, and everyone pitched in some money, and they had drinks and stuff. So it was a big kind of just FU to, foreigners. And there is a lot of tension here between foreigners coming in and buying property and Mexican nationals because of that. People come in entitled, and they think that maybe they were told that by like a snake oil salesman that, they can basically own part of the beach. But here the beaches are accessible to anyone. And, Mexicans know that, and Mexican people love going to the beach. They have 1 day off per week, and they're spending it at the beach. So get out of their way. And it's amazing that the beaches are all public, because like you said, in Ontario, like a lot of people have the lake houses, or they block off, lake access and those types of things. And it's really, really expensive to try to rent a cottage. Like, it's something that we did here. We rented, a nice tropical getaway for the weekend. And to be honest, we can't afford that in Ontario because it's too damn expensive. And just to have access, like you said, to water, like the water in Toronto was our happy place. We used to go to the beaches and just spend a few hours there to decompress, to get some grounding in. And there's nothing like doing that on the Pacific Ocean now, and being, a 5-minute drive from the beach, and having all of these beautiful beaches available to us if we were willing to drive like 10-20 minutes in any direction. There's an amazing beach. And that was our number one requirement. We're like, if we're moving out of this place, like, we need an ocean. We need the Pacific Ocean. We need some water. That's our number one requirement. And here we are, in a beautiful tropical paradise. And we have access to many, many beaches here, and all of them offer something different. So we have like our favorite ones we frequent for different types of things. Like, this one's for sunsets. This one, if we want to go out of town a little bit. This one's for a quick pop in, It's like, it's amazing, honestly. Like, there's not a moment that we've taken this for granted.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I know you've mentioned now the Pacific side a few times. So that was intentional. You wanted to be on the Pacific, not the Caribbean?
Honestly, at first we were looking at the Caribbean. We were looking at moving to Playa del Carmen. And there's some amazing beaches over there too. They're better than they are here in terms of like clear water and those types of things. Clear water, powdered sand. But quickly, we started watching videos on Playa del Carmen, and we were like, it's a little too touristy for us. And granted, it is very touristy here in Puerto Vallarta as well. But over there, it just seemed like all the shops were kind of American, and I don't know. We just got the feeling that we wouldn't fit with it. A lot of people do move there, and that's great, but it just wasn't us. And then my mom randomly said, like, why don't you look at PV? We had been here 27-ish years ago, now on a family vacation. She's like, why don't you guys go there? Like, we know a couple people there. It's safe and all that. And then we pulled up some pictures of PV because I was really young when we came, so I didn't really remember. And funny enough, it looked like our favorite place that we used to frequent the most when we lived in Chile, which was called Valparaiso. It was on the coast. And it was a really boho, street art, graffiti type of place, built up in the mountains. All the houses are different colors. And PV just really reminded us of that. And it just felt right. Like, it looked right. And we knew it would feel right to be here. So we're like, let's go. If we don't like it there, we'll go somewhere else, And here we are, like, a couple of years later, and we love it even more than when we first got here, because we're discovering new things and, new neighborhoods. And now we live in an amazing local neighborhood, which we absolutely love. Would not move anywhere else in PV than this neighborhood, and amazing neighbors. And it's just been really, really, really great.
That sounds awesome. You touched on a few different things now that I want to make sure I don't forget. So the affordability, well, Belize is like not super cheap or anything. It's definitely cheaper than living in Canada, but it was being able to access the water. So like we don't live right on the water, but you can see the water, you can hear the water. We're just across the street, and to afford that in Canada is like, you got to be quite wealthy to do that. But here, like, an average middle class Canadian person can afford something like that. So you mentioned briefly safety. You feel really safe in PV. So what, generally speaking, is safe about it? And has that changed at all? Is it getting safer? Is it not? I did read an article recently about sort of the rise of authoritarianism in the world, and it listed like 8 countries in which kind of violence and judicial killings and stuff were on the rise because kind of Trump's current stance. He's not like kind of policing the world in that regard. Mexico is on the list. What's your general like feeling of safety? Are you seeing a change in anything, like in the country in general, in where you live, in regards to safety?
Where I live, no. There are I don't really follow the news that closely here, but a lot of the unsafe kind of narco cartel activity happen in pockets of Mexico or along the border for the most part. There are, issues here and there around, Jalisco cartel is a big cartel. So I'd say there's never really any issues within uh, Puerto Vallarta per se. And I'm assuming that's because it's kind of a protected area. A lot of people have investments here and it is very touristy. So anything that were to happen here would affect the bottom dollar of the people that are in some sketchy activities. So overall here within the city, I'd say no. That being said, we don't take part in any drugs or going out late night or heavy drinking and stuff like that. Like we're not part of that whole scene, which is where a lot of things happen, petty theft and those types of things, people getting beat up. I'm assuming, like, I don't hear about it, but overall, since I've been here, I can say that I have not encountered even like a situation that made me uncomfortable. Like in 2.5 years, not even a single situation where I felt like our lives were in danger or it was sketchy or we didn't like what we saw. Not a single thing. And in comparison to living in Toronto, we used to own a house in Moss Park, which is kind of a difficult area in Toronto. It was an everyday thing, seeing crime, seeing people get stabbed. We've seen people die. We've seen people naked because they were on drugs. We've seen people shoot up, smoke crack. This was an everyday thing every single time we stepped out of our house. We would go to the park with the kids and I'd have to patrol the park to make sure there's no used condoms, there's no used needles, crack pipes, drugs, any sort of paraphernalia. It's never been a thing here. And this was a everyday, multiple times a day thing in Toronto. Like we were out walking one time and an old man, an old like drunk guy, he was like known as like kind of a drunk in the neighborhood. Like he started foaming at the mouth, having a seizure, and we witnessed him die. You know what I mean? And we couldn't do anything. And that's really traumatizing for the kids. And this
Yeah.
is Toronto we're talking about, like a first world country, first class city, and you're literally living in sketchiness all day, every day. And then you hear about people talking about Mexico. I never go there. Like people get kidnapped and drugs and this and that. And yes, it does happen in certain areas, but in most of the country, it doesn't. Whereas in the city, you're living where you're saying that it happens every single hour of every single day in every single part of the city. Like it's just it's mind boggling, it's just absolutely crazy. Just our life, I go by what I experience on a daily basis. And yeah, nothing sketchy that I've experienced here.
Yeah, we feel the same about Belize, and like we came
Mhm.
from Hamilton most recently, and daily occurrences, people coming up down like walking up and down our street trying to break into cars, smashing
Mhm.
windows, people on drugs yelling and screaming.
Mhm.
I know my wife never really felt safe there, and here honestly everyone's like, I mean, it's a super small community where I live. It's
Mhm.
essentially a small town. There's like only like 2,000 people essentially that live here. There's lots of tourism, so it seems like there's more people here than there actually is. But it's we've always felt really safe here.
Mhm.
A lot of foreigners come in here and they build these big high wall fences and floodlights all over their house,
Mhm.
and I'm just wondering like, what the fuck is that for? Because
Mhm.
nobody is breaking into houses right
Yeah.
here. There's a few things that happen here. It's very targeted though. We had um, uh, a fairly well known real estate developer get assassinated here, like maybe
Mhm.
back in February. But when you look the guy up, I don't know him personally, but when you do look him up, he's a little bit suspect. He's not he's most likely into some sketchy things. So I
Yeah.
mean, when you get into that stuff, you sort of open the door to a new world. But we find here it's obviously very similar to Mexico. If you kind of
Mhm.
just stay in the other world, that you stay out of the underworld,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're not going to have people you're not really going to be exposed to that kind of stuff. There's some petty crime. If you go down to sign bite and you leave your bike unattended, unlocked for an hour, it might go missing. But that's the same. I would be the same in Hamilton. If I left my bike out or my car with the keys running or something like that, it would be gone.
Within 2 minutes.
And and that's actually a huge thing on the rise in when my family came in for Christmas time and New Year's, and my brothers were saying they felt super safe here, more safe than back where they live, and they live in Port Credit. And there's been like carjackings on the rise and shootings in their neighborhood, and this is like a wealthy neighborhood. Like the properties there are multi-million-dollar properties, and that's happening, right? And then you come here into Belize, and people are, they're not wealthy, but they respect one another. They're not, they look after each other. There's very little like homelessness and stuff here. Like Belize is so small. It's 400,000 people in the country. So everyone kind of knows each other. So like there's always somewhere for people to go and people to support others who are in need, because they kind of all know each other, and to some very real degree, right? When you're talking 6 degrees of separation, when there's 400,000 people, it's most of the degrees is only 2 or 3, and it's your cousin, second cousin, a friend of a friend of a cousin, whatever, right? Everyone kind of knows each other. And it's kind of nice, right? It's like you get a community feel here, and there is some division, or kind of developing here between foreigners and the local people, but it's also has to do with the entitlement, people coming here and just trying to impose their way on others, and nobody likes that, right? My wife had a good analogy. We were just talking about it today. Like imagine you invite somebody over to your house, and that person's just being, starts going, oh, I don't like that painting in my house. I have this nicer painting, and the way you cooked your chicken is, it's not how I would do it, and I don't like it. And you'd be like, get the fuck out of my house, right? Yeah. And that's exactly how the local people feel when you come and you start critiquing everything about their life and claiming that your home country is better. And
so you're sorry to cut you off.
No, all good.
You're there because your home country isn't better. You're there even for snowbirds coming in 6 months a year. You're there because your home country sucks 6 months a year. So you need to respect, where you're going. And the big divide here is, one, cost of living is a big thing, going up. But, a lot of people just have the perspective of, their life, they're living as they're living it. So they don't understand that the cost of living is going up quite a bit everywhere in most countries in the world. Like Toronto's cost of living is absolutely bananas. So cost of living is going up, because of X, Y, and Z. It's a multi-factor kind of thing. But obviously foreigners coming in doesn't help that. They have more buying power and those types of things. But we all kind of get painted with one brush, which is unfortunate, because here we are living in a local neighborhood. We're trying to find, the cheap rent and live locally. And we speak Spanish, but, we're always kind of learning and improving our Spanish, trying to spend the money and put it back in locals' pockets for the most part, support local, do all these things. And then we get painted with the same brush as people who come in for 4, 5, 6 months a year. They don't care if they're in PV or if they're in Florida. Like you said, like they just want to be comfortable. They want things to be done their way. They don't even want to learn basic Spanish words, hola, buenas tardes, like whatever. They don't want to learn anything. They just want to speak English, drink, eat good food, have the sun, have the pool, and then be on their way come April. And we're not like that. It's like, we're not like that, but just because, we're foreigners, we all get painted with the same brush, which is really unfortunate, which is something we're trying to show and to break that kind of reputation with our YouTube channel. We've done videos where we talk to those foreigners specifically, and we're like, you guys are ruining it for everyone. You know what I mean? And a big thing is people come here with a stack of money and they're like, how much is rent? like, I have this amount, I have 40,000 pesos. How much is rent here? Well, it's 40,000 pesos because you just told us how much money you have. Like, whatever you're
Yeah.
going to pay, half the price of that is now up 40,000 pesos. And once owners get that level of rent here, they're not going back down. It's 40,000 forever. So it just brings everything up. And it's unfortunate that people don't spend the time to educate themselves, even on a surface level, before traveling here for a week or moving here for 5 months or moving here forever. Like, you need to do your due diligence. You need to understand how things are done in this different culture and how much things cost, because at the end of the day, when you don't do that, you're hurting everyone, Mexican nationals and foreigners living here full time alike. So,
Yeah.
and just to touch on the cost of living, PV is very touristy. So naturally, the cost of living is slightly more elevated than what you'd find like inland somewhere. So cost of living is considered high here for Mexico. But just like you said, cost of living it goes hand in hand with the quality of life you're living as well, right? Like, we're close to the ocean. For us, that's priceless, but at the same time, we need to be able to afford it, which we can't in Canada and we can here. And we kind of moved from being a 2-minute walk from the ocean to basically a 20-minute walk from the ocean because rent was a little bit cheaper. And by doing that, we found, our perfect neighborhood, like I said, with amazing people living here. So, there's things you give and take, but overall, it's just about, living the best quality of life for us. And, we don't make a lot of money. So we're also trying to find affordable options and go to local markets. And realistically, it's what makes us happy at the end of the day, doing those things. We're living with a lot less, but we're living a lot happier than what we used to back in Toronto. And also, just to touch on the crime and stuff like that, you were saying like car theft is on the rise and drug use and homelessness, and that really stuck out to us when we went back last summer after being away for a couple years. It was normal to us, the crime, the drug use, the car break-ins, the house break-ins. It was normal to us, and it's normal to people that are living out there. Things progressively get worse out there, and they have been for many, many years, and people adjust. It's just a little step up, in the wrong direction, and you just adjust and you adjust and you adjust, and oh, it's just more car break-ins now. But that's Toronto for you. Cops
Yeah.
won't do anything. Cops aren't here to help because that's Toronto for you. And
Yeah.
after living here in dangerous Mexico and going back last summer, we were like, and we went back to our old house to actually go back and sell it. We were like, this place is a shit show. Like, so much drug use everywhere. Like, all the sketchiness really slapped us in the face. And we're like, thank God we got to know something different, because we would still be here and we would be those people that have just adjusted and adapted to this lifestyle. And that is no way to live. And that's no quality of life for anyone. And people really do need to make change and speak up and do something. I don't have all the answers, but they need to change, because it's just progressively getting worse. And you see people adapting to it. And you're just there waving like, hey, there's more to life than
Yeah.
this. And they just don't see it.
It's like there's been a meme on Substack. I'm like pretty heavy on Substack with my writing and stuff. And there's been the meme going around or being revived about the frogs in the pot, right? And everyone's just boiling away and slowly, and they don't realize, right? And it's like at some point you need, someone to jump out the pot and be like, hey, it's really hot in there. Maybe, maybe you should get out. And we haven't been back yet. We're toying around with the idea of making a trip back home. It's been 3 years we haven't been back, and part of me is like, I don't know. I don't actually really care to go back, to be perfectly honest with you. I would, obviously, I would like to see my parents and stuff a bit more, but I don't really have a strong motivation to go back. We do, we are, finally settling into our life here, and we're finding that we do really enjoy it. It has taken some time, for us to get accustomed to life here.
Mm-hmm.
Just I want to jump back to something you were talking about, how you were saying you were interviewing some of those kind of foreigners, what I like to call the angry expats, and you're wanting to like educate people on sort of, you know, blending in and essentially assimilating. And this is a big topic too that I'm interested in exploring as well. So what are some kind of just basic, if you can just think of one or two basic tips that you would give somebody for just, you know, if you could give them a assimilation playbook or something, what would be like a point or two that would be something easy that they could do to just like blend in? You know, obviously learning to speak the language, which you do, but beyond that, like something a little bit maybe more nuanced, because a life abroad is all about nuance.
Yeah. Just to correct you on something, we did not interview them because we would never platform these people. Me and Kathleen we come up with topics that we see through Facebook groups and we talk about it on our podcast. And I'm speaking to them on our podcast, hoping that some of them, but language wouldn't necessarily be front of line because language is really hard to learn, especially as an adult. You do need to spend a lot of time and study, and like Duolingo's there, but it's not super helpful in real world scenarios. However, you know, learning a few words goes a long way here, especially when you sit down at a restaurant and you just greet someone in Spanish. Like it changes the whole dynamic of the interaction. Just saying thank you, saying gracias, saying whatever it may be, you know, buenos dias, buenas tardes, buenas noches, greeting people. It just, small things go such a long way here. But that being said, yeah, learning a few words. However, I wouldn't put it in the top two. One of the tips I would give someone would be to let go of all your expectations and let go of the way you live back home. Like, just be open. Come somewhere and just be open to receive how life is lived in the new place you're visiting. I'll speak on PV, like, and the culture that's there. Everything is completely different. You know, it is a beach town, so things are slower here. It's Things are done a very specific way here. You know, you go to a restaurant, yeah, you might wait a little bit longer to get your food, or the server might not come check in on you because it's a different culture. They're not popping in when you have food in your mouth. Like, hey, how's the food, guys? Like everything is completely different here. And those things trigger a lot of people that come in and don't understand that things are done differently and things are culturally way differently here. Yes, we're close by. It's a 5.5 hour flight, but it's a whole different world. And if you don't come here with an open mind and just you're not able to receive things the way they are, then don't come here. It's as simple as that. You know, travel within your own country where you're comfortable with the culture and the way things are lived, or go to the United States because that's probably a close second. Vice versa if you're going from the United States somewhere. Mexico it's completely different. It's not like any other country, north or south of us. You know, it's just completely different, and a lot of people have a hard time adjusting to that. And I don't fault people for trying to come here and maybe trying to vacation here, and you know, it's just not a good fit. They didn't like the way things are done here, and that's fine. Just don't come back next time with the same expectations you came here with the first time. And we see that a lot with snowbirds. And they come here because it's cheaper to come here now, or more affordable than, you know, what they were spending in Florida the last couple of years they were going. So they're looking to save money and they're coming here, but it's not a right fit for them. But they'll keep coming here and complaining about it just because it's easier on their pockets. It's like, no, that's not fair to anyone, including yourself. Like, you're just not living as happily as you would finding another place that's a better fit. So I think that's probably, you know, the number one thing. Come here with an open mind, and every traveler knows this. You don't go to a place and judge it because of the way it's lived. Like, no, if you don't agree with it, you're the problem, not them. Right?
Yeah.
And I guess a second thing would be just to scratch the surface in terms of research, talk to people there. Like Facebook connects everyone from everywhere. And there's a lot of great Facebook groups you can join about Puerto Vallarta. Throw in some questions or do some research. How much should things cost? If I'm renting a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, if I'm going to take a boat here, like how much should these things cost? Because if you're coming in, like I said, with a pocket full of cash and you're saying, I have $20,000, I have 20,000 pesos to do this thing, whatever it is, it's costing 20,000 pesos now. And that hurts everyone living here. That especially hurts locals that earn very little. Minimum wage is very low here in comparison to the cost of living. It makes everything way more difficult, and it creates a lot of tensions with locals and foreigners. And it's just not fair to everyone. So just scratch the surface, do a little bit of research on how much things should cost, try to support local as much as you can. Thankfully here, a lot of businesses are local. You don't see a lot of American businesses or American corporations here. But still there are some. Just try to put your money back in Mexican people's pocket, because at the end of the day, like, everyone is hurting in 2025. Things are difficult financially, and even more so for people, that live here and that were born here.
Those are awesome points for sure. What is something that you've come to love about Mexico that was like unexpected, that you didn't think, like it wasn't even on your radar, but you've come to like absolutely love about Mexico?
I think the culture. It's very simply, we came to Mexico without really having traveled to Mexico much. I came here a couple of times when I was younger, or last time we went on a family trip, I was maybe like 18, but you don't really get to experience the culture if you're going to like a hotel resort type place. Like, yeah, you pop in here and there to say hello, but you're not really, in the culture per se. And Kathleen had never come to Mexico. And as soon as we crossed the border, I kid you not, from the United States. And by the way, we drove here from Toronto all the way to Puerto Vallarta. And we really enjoyed our trip through the United States. We absolutely love Texas as well. We did Austin and we did Dallas. Loved everything about it. But as soon as we crossed the border into Mexico, the culture and the way that everything was family friendly, and the way that everyone was very nice and approachable, and the way that we would sit down at a restaurant and they always 100% of the time had a dedicated kid space where our kids could just go and run around and we got to eat in peace. And the way that, our kids were acknowledged even before us. Sitting down in a restaurant, the server would come and touch our youngest head and just say hi to the kids. Like, that's something that really stood out to us. And that the Canadian culture, whatever you want it to be, the mix of culture in Canada is not kid friendly anymore for the most part.
No.
People in Toronto would put your kid out of the way just so that they can go about their day on the sidewalk. And here it's the complete opposite. So right away, we were honestly like, this is the place for us. This is the culture I want to learn about and I want to teach my kids about, because it's just so family friendly and inviting. We got to PV. Everyone was so nice. We moved into our neighborhood. We were getting invited to the parties and the birthday parties and, the celebrations, and drinking beers with the neighbors. And they don't speak a lick of English. And, we speak a little bit of Spanish, but just everyone was so invited to us. And again, like, you look online and there's so much tension and foreigners versus Mexican nationals. And I cannot tell you that our actual experience living here in person has been the complete opposite as what it's portrayed to be online. That being said, we have a YouTube channel and we do get the messages all the time, like, get out of here, foreigner, go back to your country. And we do get that online, but the way we see it is that, as long as it doesn't affect us in person, and it never has, it's just been great living here. Like everyone has been just so inviting to us, and especially the kids. They have a ton of friends now on our street. All the kids, when we first moved to our neighborhood, they didn't really speak good Spanish or anything, and now they're fully fluent. They just got invited right into the kids group. Like, yeah, it's kind of been a full immersive experience for us, and a lot of people that even move here full time, they don't get that. But for us, we've been looking for that, and we've put ourselves in positions to have that experience, and it's been nothing but great, to be quite honest. And we absolutely love the culture here, and it's something that we teach our kids about regularly, and we take part in the festivities and the holidays and all those types of things. We make sure that they know, you know what I mean? Because it's definitely the Mexican culture is a culture to look up to. For if you have a family, if you have kids, like it's amazing.
Yeah, we definitely noticed that. I mean, Belize is very like family friendly and kid accepting and stuff here too. Like you'll get like one of the a waitress or something at a restaurant will pick your kid up, and like, or even just like out on the street. And at first it took us a little while to get used to that, because in Canada you're taught to be like, what are you, don't touch my kid, right? And
Yeah.
but like it's just out of love, and they just absolutely like love children, and they love to engage with them. And then we did notice that too. We did a little bit of traveling into Mexico, into Chetumal, and we did notice that just family friendly culture of just your kids are welcome at the restaurant, and we've really come to like enjoy that. I think it's also kind of too, like, just in general in the Caribbean too, it's a little bit more of like the family unit, and kids are like a little bit more respected, I guess, or something. I don't know exactly what that is, but we've noticed too that like Mexican culture is very strong. Like you just cross the border from Belize into Mexico, and it's like completely different. That whole Caribbean vibe that Belize has is just disappears, gone. Just over the border, and it's very like the Mayan culture, especially in the kind of on that side of Mexico and Quintana Roo and stuff, is very at least when you cross the border, is very, very prominent.
Yeah. And a lot of people there's kids everywhere in general here. So there's no other option than to be kid friendly. It's almost like back in Toronto, having a kid is an inconvenience. You go to Costco, back in Toronto, and if you have your kid there, like people are pissed off if they cry or if they make any sort of noise. And people are just so aggressive. And here you go to Costco. There's a Costco here in PV. Which is like an apples to apples comparison. It's the only thing I can really compare to. But you look, every cart has one or two kids in it. Kids crying, a parent disciplining their kid, strangers talking to other strangers about their kids. Like there's kids absolutely everywhere here, which is amazing. Everyone is so tolerant and so accepting of your kid. Like if your kid's crying in a restaurant here, you're not getting dirty looks from Mexican. Like you're getting dirty looks from foreigners only. It's part of reality, and that's how it should be. Like, why wouldn't you want more kids around in your culture? You know what I mean? It makes no sense.
Yeah. And we were all kids amazing. At one point, right? So it's like, exactly. Why are you getting angry at something you used to be? For sure. It's I had all these questions written out, and I don't even think I looked at my sheet once. So, but that's
that
great,
could be
man.
Good or bad. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I think it's good. It's a little bit more natural. Where can, for those who are just sort of discovering you, where can people find you online? And I know you're pretty prolific online, it seems like. So where can people find and kind of tune into what you guys are doing?
Yeah, we have a small but slowly growing YouTube channel, More Life Diaries, where we vlog. We've been putting out weekly vlogs now where we just show basically people our life here and what we do and where we go, beaches, restaurants, those types of things. We also do a podcast on the same channel where we kind of just sit down and have more so reflective conversations, me and Kathleen, my wife, about the things we live on an everyday basis. And we'll usually pick a couple topics to talk about on any given podcast. We also travel to different towns and different places around Mexico and show those specific places. So, more live diaries on YouTube. We're also very active on Instagram and Facebook, where we kind of just post about our daily lives there. If you want to get to know us a little bit more personally, I'd say follow us there as well, where we just post about the kids, about the things we're doing on a daily basis, interesting things we see, which never stops here in Mexico. You're always walking and seeing interesting things. So we'll post those types of things on social media. So Facebook, Instagram, obviously YouTube is the big one. If you guys can help us out and subscribe there, that'd be greatly appreciated. Or reach out to us if you have any questions. If you're looking to embark on a similar journey than we did, then morelifediaries@gmail.com. We're very responsive and we love to connect with people, because this sort of journey, as you know, can sometimes be very isolating, very lonely. You don't know where to start. You don't know who to talk to. There's no better person to talk to than someone who's done that similar journey, that's really living the life that you maybe aspire to live one day. You know what I mean? And it's within reach for everyone. Like, we woke up one day and we didn't think this was possible. And later on that day, it was a possibility. And yeah, just reach out to people that are really living that life. Everyone can do it. You just have to be motivated and start working towards it.
Yeah, no, that's a great piece of advice for sure. Mm-hmm. And then did I see that you're starting a real estate venture? Are you doing? Yeah, is that something so people are interested in exploring real estate options in Mexico, in your area?
Yeah, for sure. So I started real estate as well. I started basically before we went back to Toronto, and then put things off for a little bit. So I'm back in it now. Marco in Mexico @gmail.com if you're looking to move here or buy a property here, invest. I also do real estate photography and videography. So Marco in Mexico, realtor @gmail.com. But yeah, real estate is something that I just recently started, and it kind of made sense with our YouTube channel. We get hit up a lot by people looking to make the move here for questions and properties and those types of things. So it was just kind of a seamless transition into real estate, which I had no background in, but it just really made sense. And I know the city quite well here. We vlog about all different parts of the city. So I can tell you, like, this place is up and coming, and this place is the really popular but expensive area. It's been kind of a seamless transition for the most part, and I'm really enjoying doing it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So way back when you guys first started out, you were looking for the feeling of travel as part of like your move abroad. So have you found it?
Every single day we get the feeling of travel when we wake up and we open our balcony doors and you smell. And I can't really describe it in words, but you just, all of your senses are activated the same as when you travel. The smells, the visuals of, the jungle background, and that smell of humidity, and you hear the noises of Mexico. Like, everything is just activated. And that's something that gives us the sense of travel. And then you're walking, just under your daily walk, going to the gym, and you see all of these things that we might never get used to because we didn't grow up in that. Everything is just, it's so activated on another level that I can't really describe. It's really hard to put into words, but yeah, the sense of travel never ceases here. And at the same time, over the weekend, we went to a coastal town where you can only get to by boat. There are no cars there. People around town travel on donkeys, horses, or ATVs. And this was less than an hour away. You're driving an hour where we used to be from Toronto, and you're in Newmarket. There's not a lot to see. You don't get the sense of traveling an hour in any direction.
Yeah. If you're lucky, Toronto. That's not in traffic.
Yeah, if you're lucky, exactly. And here we're in a completely different world than even we live in here in PV. So Yeah, every single day, every moment of every day, it still feels like we're getting the sense of travel. Everything is still new and unreal to us. Like I've said this, there's not a moment we take for granted, living here and the experiences we get to live here. And if ever I need a little reminder, a little kick in my own butt because, things start to feel normal, I go back and think, what would I be doing right now if we were still living in Toronto? And right away, that brings me back to how grateful and thankful I am to live here with my wife, Kathleen, with my two kids. It's just amazing to get to raise a family here.
That's great, man. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy for you guys.
No,
Thank you so much for coming on, man. This was a great
thank you.
conversation. I would love to do it again sometime,
Yep.
and get to know you guys a little bit better. And say hi to Kathleen for me.
Mm-hmm.
And if we ever make it into Mexico, we'll give you guys a shout, and maybe we can link up in person or something. It's one of the reasons why I want to do this show is like just get to know people and build like just like a network of new friends and people to chat with and connect with and meet. And so I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting us and watching our channel as well. That's something we really, really appreciate. And, we're both small YouTubers or, have small platforms that are growing. So it's always important to help one another. And I'm sure we'll keep in touch, man. It'd be great to get to know you and your family in person one day.
Yeah, man. All right.
All right.
Thanks again.
Cool.
Take it easy.
Thank you. Take care, man.